Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Eirini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you and welcome back. This is the video where we're looking at the uncovering of the feet as it was described in Ruth chapter 3, verse 4. So it says here, these are the instructions of Naomi. It's important to note, meaning Ruth is not aware of these customs, these Israelite customs. If she knew about them, Naomi would not have to explain to her what to do. But because she is a Moabitess, Naomi, the Israelite, is explaining to her daughter-in-law the protocol for her to essentially make her intentions known to Boaz, because it seems that Ruth is interested in him, and Naomi catches wind of this. She just feels it, and so she's telling her what to do in order for her to make her move, so to speak. And one thing I did not mention in the previous video, in verse 1 it actually says, shall I not seek rest for you, which in the Hebrew connotation implies a home. Shall I not seek a home for you? Will I not set you up for life, essentially? So she's trying to help her to set up her life, set her up for success, and that's with Boaz. And she even is privy to his habits, and she's telling her, Ruth, what to do. And this is her instructions: lift up the covering of his feet. This is after he lies down, and he's probably sleepy or sleeping, and that is the custom here. So this is gonna be a long video. That's why I decided to do this separately from the differences video. So I don't believe this is a sexual, has any sexual connotation to it. It has more to do with, I believe, the talit, as well as historical, cultural customs. It has to do with servant and master dynamics. And just to go to the actual account of where it happened, it says here, he came to lie down by the side of the heap of corn. She came secretly, lifted up the covering of his feet. So he chooses the heap of corn to lie down at. And it seems they are alone. Doesn't seem to be a party. I'm thinking there's a crowd of people, but it seems to be just them two. And she knows where to find him because of her mother-in-law, Naomi. And when he woke up at midnight, funny time to wake up, but he woke up, perhaps because his feet were cold, and he saw Ruth there, and he was amazed, and he was troubled, not troubled as in disturbed, but troubled as in he was stirred up, emotionally, mentally. It was just stimulating, like, what is this? He was stirred up, he was amazed and troubled. And then she tells him, spread your skirt over your handmaid. And I believe this relates to what we read in the previous chapter, in the verse where she's essentially saying, I'm your servant. I'll be like one of your servants. In verse 13 of the previous chapter, I shall be as one of your servants. So that was her verbal statement, and this is her physical confirmation that of what she said previously. I will be like one of your servants, and she's essentially saying, I'm at your service. I'm under your submission. Okay, so we haven't even got into the historical parts of this, so let's look at that. There's quite a lot to unpack here. So just bear with me as I go through the sources I've got here. So looking at the talit. So the talit is a garment, was and is a garment that was used to cover up those who are observing this law, and it was made of thick wool and so on. So this is a garment they would wear throughout the day, and at night they would use it to cover themselves with it. So essentially, they're wearing their blanket. I think of it as a the wearable blanket with the holes in it. I forgot what it's called right now, but it was like a big snuggie. I think it was called a snuggie. So it's kind of like that. So they cover it. They cover their bodies with it, and so essentially, even his feet are covered by this talit. Okay. But there's a lot of symbology in terms of what this represents as well. So let me just get into that also. Okay, sorry, just bear with me for a moment. So it was not only worn during prayer time as it is in our modern day, it's actually worn throughout the day. And it was actually black in ancient times. And so I'm going to get into the significance of what the talit represents. So it actually ties in with the chuppah, which is a like a canopy that is made during the Jewish wedding. So essentially, the chuppah is, the talit and chuppah are very much connected, and what the chuppah represents is creating the Jewish home. It is a show of hospitality to the guests, so that's during the wedding, obviously. And marriage back in ancient times was looked upon as more of an alliance for reasons of survival or practicality. Not so much that it's about romance and love. That was secondary. It was more about surviving and practicality. So you can see that's why Naomi was setting up Ruth. She wanted her to be able to survive and have a good life. And it says here, unlike a Christian wedding, where it is generally taboo for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony, in a Jewish wedding, the groom must see his bride before the ceremony. So perhaps this is kind of allusion to it. It's sort of a foreshadowing of this kind of practice, because they are alone, it seems, and she is seeing, technically it's not her groom yet, but she is seeing him, making herself known to her potential husband. And we can see that repeated in the story of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel, where he had to see the identity of who he's marrying the night before, but he didn't really get a good look at her because it was dark and all these things were going on. Okay. So it says here in my source, it's from the Refiner's Fire, .org. Boaz and Ruth. Another example of the authority represented in the tassel is found in a passage. I'm going to change the image here. In the book of Ruth, which is sometimes difficult to understand. In chapter 3, Ruth went to Boaz to receive his blessing that would help her out of her difficult situation. She went to the threshing floor and slept at his feet in the middle of the night. Okay, so we read that already. So Boaz proceeded to make every arrangement to help Ruth, and eventually he married her. So what Ruth did in asking Boaz to spread the corner of his garment or his talit over her was a symbolic way of saying that she was placing herself under Boaz's authority. Okay, so a lot of people have commented on the internet that it's such a weird custom. Like, what is that, uncovering somebody's feet? Well, when you remove yourself from those ancient customs, even something as simple as foot washing becomes strange. Um, but in the Middle East, people tend to sleep on the floor and in various positions. So, if, for instance, if this is Boaz, Ruth would just be right there, right? That picture's not helpful. Let's look at this one. Okay, so here we can see a depiction of, that's not a talit, but Ruth uncovering the feet. That's a better picture. This is a more seductive picture. But I believe it is closer to this depiction where Boaz here is covered and you see the fringes on the talit, and Ruth, let's assume this is Ruth, she's uncovering, okay, let's say uncovering the feet of Boaz. So she's simply uncovering his feet, not that she's exposing his privates or anything above the knee, most likely just exposing the feet, maybe even up to the ankle perhaps, but she's uncovering his feet, and that's a practice again that Naomi had to make known to Ruth to familiarize her with that. And when I was meditating on what this means, besides relating to marriage and so on, was this a proposal? That's one of the big questions that a lot of people are asking. Is she proposing to Boaz, and is this wrong? I don't think it's wrong, because Boaz could easily say no, and privately, since they're alone, he's not going to make a example of her and shame her. So it's interesting that this is happening at night. If this was during the day and she made her intentions known to Boaz that she's interested in him, if he rejects her in the daytime, she's going to be humiliated, essentially. But because this is happening at nighttime, no one else is around, she's saving face in a way. So that's Naomi's advice to her, in case he says no, perhaps. And another reflection I had in regards to this, the meaning of this, is not only is the talit the symbol of the authority and being on the protection of a husband, but Ruth, by her actions, is uncovering the feet and then lying down at his feet. Essentially, she made herself as one of his maidservants, but she is respecting his authority. She's essentially saying to Boaz, by her actions, not her words, that I require your protection and I submit to your authority. I submit under your authority, and therefore I respect your authority. So she is showing her respect for Boaz as a potential husband. She is also showing that she's in need of protection of a man, since she is widowed, of a husband such as Boaz. And she is showing that she's interested in him. So there's so many things being expressed through this one action, and it gets lost because it's something we don't do today. But if were done to me, I would know what a woman is thinking. So please, ladies, if you want to uncover my feet, here's my talit anyway. Yeah, so that's what I believe is happening in this account. So I could be wrong, but that's simply my opinion based on a lot of scriptural examples. We look also at Adam and Eve and think of where Eve was taken out of, right? Adam's rib, or Adam's side. A lot of people use this description that Eve was not taken out of the head or the foot, but out of his rib, because that's a place where she can be protected and nurtured. Uh, so in a way, when you look at the talit and what it represents as well, her lying down at Boaz's feet, she is seeking the protection of Boaz, which is like a rib, Eve as the rib, needing protection and needing to be loved and nurtured by her husband. So it's a similar kind of symbology, not saying it's exact, but there's seems to be some sort of connection, although it could be a little far-fetched, but I'm trying to make the connections here. Okay. Uh, so that's all for this video. I hope that makes sense in terms of what the uncovering of the feet means. There's no sexual connotation. It's strictly about authority, respect for authority. It's about marital relations, potential marital relations, that there is a sort of proposal going on. Now, it does seem weird that a woman's proposing in a way, but this is a proposal that can be done that in which the woman can save face. So it's not codified in the Torah. There's nothing talking about, ladies, if you want to get married, uncover the man's feet. But it is quite interesting that, yes, the talit not only is a reminder for individuals to not go whoring after their eyes and to remember to keep the laws of Adonai, but it is also a symbol of protection. It is also a symbol of the household. It is a symbol of it's a wedding symbol, and when it is used as a chuppah, as a canopy protecting those inside of it, specifically the husband, the wife. It's also a symbol of authority of the husband, and then the Ruth, potential wife, respecting his authority, showing her submission, subservience to Boaz in her actions, which Naomi had to educate her about. So I hope that makes sense. Just to sum it up once again, I believe this is her body language is telling Boaz, I respect your authority, I submit to your authority, and I need your protection since I'm widowed, I have no husband, and you're the nearest of kin. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. I hope this was helpful to you in understanding the topic of uncovering the feet. So that's all for this video. Tune in for the last chapter of Ruth whenever we have that uploaded. Just keep your notification bell on so you'll know as soon as that's uploaded, and we'll try to get the other videos that I listed in the if you're reading our feed. There's various projects we want to get done, so I didn't think we'd get Ruth done this quickly. We still have one more chapter to go, and thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, and peace be unto you. Maranatha.